Could you set off that REM pod one more time?
Captain, is that you?
Something's knocking.
So my name is Josh Hurd. I'm kind of like location manager or whatever here at Malvern Manor. This is just what we call the lobby area. So we know like the building itself was constructed in 1869. It was the fourth structure that was built in town. So I mean, the whole town's popping up around this place. People coming and going all the time. And we do know primarily it was servicing the railroad. But this room also kind of doubled as a gentleman's parlor. So the guys would sit around and they would sip whiskey and play cards and all of that fun stuff. But we know the gentleman that actually built the place was this guy right here. Captain Kohlers was his name. He was one of the first people to really come to the area, but very strong ties to the building itself, and a lot of people claim to run into him up on the second floor, which I'll show you where all that fun stuff happens here in a minute. But the building runs as a hotel all the way up until the 1950s. At that time, it kind of takes an odd turn. It becomes what we would consider to be more of like a nursing home type setting. The nursing home only lasts a couple of decades. In the 70s, the state of Iowa shuts them down because the hallways aren't wide enough to support transporting patients. And so this is where it becomes the group home, which is servicing any form of what they considered to be a mental disorder back then, which is, their consideration back then is vastly different than our consideration of a mental disorder today. So it's things that we see all the time. People with Down syndrome, people with drug and alcohol abuse, like very common type things. And then of course, more exotic cases, people on the opposite side of the coin, but people with DID, or what they used to call multiple personalities, schizophrenics, I mean, even murderers were housed here. Like, this is a very eclectic group of people coexisting under the same roof. And it ran like that all the way up until 2005. The most interesting thing, for me anyway, about this building is that everything that you guys are about to see, we haven't touched. Like, everything is exactly the way it was when we first walked into this building. With that being said, don't feel like you're walking around a museum. If you guys want to sit in the wheelchairs, do it. If you want to lie down in the beds, do it. Or try on the clothes in the dresser drawers, be my guest. This is what we call Gracie's room. Now, Gracie was certainly one of those exotic type of patients. So multiple personalities, but also schizophrenia on top of all of that. But a very chaotic mind state. They would hear male voices coming from Gracie's room and come to check that out, obviously, but open the door and find it was just her. Like, she was able to shift and manipulate her voice to sound male. One evening that we know of in particular, 3 nurses sat with her for just an hour. During this hour, they documented 13 separate distinguishable personalities, which is almost medically unheard of. Like, the wheelhouse is like 2 to 5, so I mean, she's certainly tipping the scales. But again, guys, everything is how we found it, including even her glasses, which still sit just right here where we found them. Now, everything else, I will say, like on this shelf has been added. I mean, people bring stuff for her to maybe move or manipulate in some way, but the glasses were certainly original to the room.
Whoa. Oh, he said whoa, like something wouldn't open
Yeah,
up.
something's knocking.
Like, already, that's cool. Okay.
Are we like the only ones in the building right now?
It's just us, yeah. So, what's interesting, guys, is this is the newest section of the whole place. Probably by far my least favorite also. Like, I don't even vacuum back here. But they added this on in 1956 just to accommodate that nursing home type setting. So you can tell like where that nurse's station once sat. But guys, I mean, there's even names on the med cabinets here. Now, obviously, any sensitive information we certainly remove from the building, right? Like, I don't want to step on toes of family or make any HIPAA violations or anything like that. Specifically, guys, down this hallway. This is where people experience what we just call the shadow man phenomenon. So,
Oh, that's this corner. Okay.
yeah. So all the way down the hall.
Because it was on the right side, right?
Correct. The last room on the right. That is room number 2. A very tall black figure will come out of that room, turn, and then run at people, traveling the distance of probably closer to what, 40 feet? Probably.
At least, yeah.
Yeah. in less than a second. So this is also what sends the majority of people out the front door, myself included. It's interesting to me because it's the day after like Paranormal Lockdown aired that a nurse that used to work here got a hold of me, and she said the gentleman that occupied that room was 6'7", nonverbal, mentally deranged, had even killed a few people in the past, but his little claim to fame was whenever they were doing like bed checks or what have you, he would come out of that room and he would chase the nursing staff. So I'm like, well, we're seeing like
Exactly
that same thing, right? So it's very interesting when it happens. I don't know what the cause of any of this would be.
Right.
Like if this is something maybe
Whenever
residual.
it's like a residual, yeah.
Yep.
Residual haunting.
And it's like, and if that's the case, like I cannot find that antecedent. So like time
Like
of
what's
day
triggering
or
it.
yep,
Yeah.
exactly. Nothing seems to be really kicking it into motion. It's almost just seemingly happening whenever it wants to. So it's really trippy. Last night, the group that was here, they said that there was a giant shadow figure that was following them throughout the entire building, which is interesting, but it doesn't seem to be this guy's MO either. Like usually this guy's just running at people and that's it. So I'm like, I don't know what that would have been. So it's like, was it him? Maybe. And now this here, guys, this is Rebecca's room. Rebecca did not have a very good time while here. Now we do know that she was dropped off here by her husband, which apparently was something you could just do. She was only in her mid-30s, so I mean she's quite young. But she thought, obviously, my husband no longer loves me. He doesn't find me attractive. But this became quite the obsession for her. She would stand at the sink looking into the mirror. She would pluck the hair out of her head, which there is a medical term for that, and I would butcher it if I tried to pronounce it. But still, because of her obsessive types of behaviors, we know she was medicated. She did not respond well to meds. I mean, she wastes away to nothing. She stops eating. She stops drinking. I mean, it's certainly one of the more sad stories that we have here. Interestingly enough to me is that female investigators seem to have the most luck in this room. Yeah, tugging on your clothes, playing with your hair. I mean, certainly nothing violent or anything like that, but even the introduction of a male into the room can flatline activity, and I think she just doesn't trust men. This is what we call like the curvy hallway. Some people call it the bloody hallway for reasons that you can kind of start to see here. And they continue throughout the entire hallway. So very similar to the names on the cabinets, like I don't want to step on toes. I don't want to upset anybody, right? So I said, like, that's probably enough information. Like the questions I still have, I'll never have a definitive answer to. How it got here, sure. Why it was never cleaned up is the bigger question. Maybe this happened after 2005, like after the building kind of falls into disuse. But guys, coincidentally then, this is also the area where people experience a gentleman spirit referring to himself as the captain. And then in here, guys, this is Susie's room. Susie was certainly like an interesting patient for sure. She was a middle-aged patient, mentally probably closer to about 8 or 9. So we found a lot of coloring books and activity books, and now obviously people have started to add to her collection, which is pretty cool. We openly invite people to color in the books if you want, leave her a note or a message. She just seems to love the interaction. She loves the company. From the investigative side of everything, she fascinates me just because the activity itself seems to be contained to this room, which is interesting because every other resident spirit seems to be fairly transient. So they'll follow you and mess with you all day and night long, and she stays put. She'll say certain things like, I can't leave, I'm scared, he won't let me leave is a big one. I'm not sure who he is, that she's,
captain.
maybe, possibly. But yeah, it's like I certainly have my speculations, but nothing definitive yet. This is kind of a room full of nightmares. I don't like dolls at all. But guys, this is what we call Inez's room. So the story with Inez Gibson is very interesting to me, but we know the year was 1900. It was December 21st, so it's right around Christmas time. 12-year-old Inez Gibson is outside playing with her 8-year-old brother Otto. She's either cold or bored, but she says, I'm going upstairs. Well, we know 10 minutes pass, her brother Otto comes upstairs and finds his sister Inez hanging by her jump rope in the closet. looks like I mean, to be fair, it kind of smells like like these kids had a very tough go of life anyway. Now what we do know is that Otto tries to help his sister and get her down, but I mean, he's only 8 years old and he's not strong enough. So Otto runs to the grocery store, and that is where Aunt and Uncle were working that day. Aunt and Uncle had also just become adopted mom and dad to these kids. So again, like a tough go of life, a new living situation, the whole 9 yards. But he grabs Aunt and Uncle. He grabs 2 doctors as well, which just seems like complete dumb luck, in my opinion.
Sure.
They all race back. They get her down. They tried to help. Far too much time had passed. There was no helping her. This story shook the entire community. I mean, even one of the doctors that was trying to assist her that day committed himself 10 days later. Like, it gets messy. Now what fascinates me the most is the fact that, like, one of the most active spirits we have here is a little girl claiming to be Inez Gibson, and you will very audibly hear her running up and down these halls. She'll call you by name, she'll ask you to come and play, things like that. Definitively, I also know Inez Gibson never died here. Like, the story I just told you 100% happened right across the street. So why in her afterlife, if it is her, why would she seemingly be choosing to be here? We have no idea. Now, she's certainly receiving a lot of attention. I'll give her that. People are bringing gifts and toys, money. Some people are bringing jump ropes, which may be in poor taste, you know. One of my best friends in the whole world is Johnny over at the Villisca Axe Murder House. And he's kind of a butthead sometimes. He likes to bust my chops because he knows I hate dolls. And so he brought me this little thing here.
Looks like one that's just at the Axe Murder House.
Yeah. No, but he's a great friend, you know what I mean? So, yeah. This, guys, this is what we call Hank's room, or Henry's room. And I always say it just kind of depends on the day and what he wants to be called. He's your very stereotypical grumpy old man, so he would sit out on the front porch and he would throw rocks at children. So he's just kind of a butthead. He has a very strong dislike for females. He does not enjoy the company of ladies and will call you pretty much any vulgar name you can imagine. And he has a pretty extensive vocabulary. But again, guys, everything is how we found it in this place, including even the clothing items in the dresser drawer, which do seem to be the catalyst for the activity. So like messing with the clothes, folding the clothes, I mean, ladies putting on the clothes, that's usually enough to elicit some kind of a response. I'll show you this as well, and this has nothing to do with anything other than it's a little gross. In the top drawer here, guys, there are fingernail clippings, super bizarre and a little gnarly, but again, like things that we have found that we just haven't touched. I mean,
originals.
Right. Maybe we got a little Hank DNA or something, I'm not sure. This is certainly one of the more sensitive stories that we have here for sure. But anyway, like one of the first things that I did after acquiring this building was I invited the former nursing staff back here, right? Just walk me down memory lane. This was one of the areas they stopped. They told me a very interesting story that, if I'm being quite frank with you, I just don't believe, right? But what they said was a gentleman that was in room 18 over here. Pretty much had the whole bed check schedule down to a science. 3 to 4 times a week. Then usually in the middle of the night, he would sneak across the hall into room 17 over there, where he would sexually the gentleman that was in this room. Now, there's over 150 pieces of written documentation that would suggest this probably happened, right? But it never really sat well with me because 150 is an awful lot. Like 4 is a lot. Like if you knew this were happening, like you would take one of these gentlemen out of the equation, right? But they coexisted for 5 years at least. And that's a very small chunk of documented history I can physically see. So one night we had a couple of the guys from that show, Ghost Hunters, that were here. And more or less we were kind of messing around, if I'm being honest. But in room 17, plain as day over the spirit box, this voice comes through and it says, "That never happened." And it was very adamant that this never went on. So I said, "Well, what did happen?" And he said, "I loved him." Then over the next 2 hours suggested that these 2 gentlemen may or may not have been a couple, loved each other very much. Now I do know that, especially in a facility like this, any form of sexual anything would have to be documented, no matter what. So maybe that lends itself to the documentation, maybe. Maybe it lends itself to why they weren't separated. I don't know. Like, what I do know is that some of the best pieces of evidence I've ever personally captured have been from right in this area for sure. And then, guys, this is pretty much the only reason why you signed the waiver. This is the attic. Like, we don't know what the purpose of this attic was. Like, even looking at the original blueprints of this place, this attic doesn't exist. So it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. But there's trim, and there's baseboards and moldings and paint. Like, even this old chimney has a paint job on it. So it's like, it would have a purpose, you know what I mean? But they knocked this down because it apparently was the cause of all of the fire damage above our heads here. But again, not trying to sensationalize a thing, guys. Usually it's a lot of growling, disembodied voices telling you some of the most horrific things you've ever heard in your life. Where it gets weird is the majority of these noises and voices are coming from the opposite sides of the walls. So I personally thought maybe it's a family of raccoons or critters or something like that, right? Like, it's an old building. So the only place I can really kind of investigate that further is back here. And on either side, there are crawl spaces. And so the crawl spaces back here take you all the way down and through, and they'll spit you out in the middle of the hallway by Hank's room. So far I've made 9 trips through the crawl space, looking for carcass or droppings or anything like that. The only things that I have found are very personal items: a tobacco pouch, playing cards, like keys, crushed up packs of cigarettes, an old receipt from 1948, but nothing suggesting an animal yet. Whoever this is does not seem to enjoy the company of others. And he'll tell you some of the most horrific things you've ever heard, but then he'll beg you for things like alcohol, things like cigarettes or whatever, which, I
see all that.
Yeah, I try to be a good host, you know what I'm saying? It's more like a peace offering. Just let me do my job and I'll let you do your job. But guys, this is my favorite part of the tour. That's where I get to leave you alone. And so you guys are free to go wherever you'd like, and explore and have fun, all right?
Welcome back to another video. I'm Gio.
I'm Chris.
And today we're at the Malvern Manor. We're not staying overnight here, but we're actually like ghost hunting, so we're pretty much ghost hunting here for
during the day.
And if you guys do want to see us come back down here and actually stay overnight and do like full-on investigations, and we're definitely down for it.
Yeah, for sure.
Powerful.
Powerful. What exactly is powerful? One light. So what's it meant by one light? I got my crystal, you got yours too, don't you?
Yeah.
That'd be considered technically 2 lights.
Nice hat. Nice hat.
Who has a hat? One if there's someone that's downstairs. Our guy goes in and wearing a hat either.
No, it wasn't.
But the other people that were down there.
Hey.
Hello. How are you today? We just come to investigate and try to tell you a story. See if we have some facts straight.
Yeah, I heard that too.
Could you tell us your name? It sounds like it's pretty much fun.
Follow us right.
I was about to say, should we like transition into that one?
Could you give us a location on where to follow you at? We are now in room 18. You said follow us. We have followed into the next room.
Follow us ahead.
Did you say
Follow
tonight or
us
what?
ahead.
Okay,
Literally follow us ahead, follow us right, follow us ahead. You cannot. Where do you want us to follow you to? Could you give us a direction on where to go?
Hey,
It's both. Whatever he wants to go by, yeah. Whatever he wants to go by at that point.
This is the room that he hates women, right?
Yeah, he hates women, yeah. He would literally sit outside of the balcony and
Ryan.
throw rocks at kids. So Henry or Hank, whatever you're going by today, can you give us your
Characters?
name? We set a REM pod on the floor for you. Do you mind grabbing that antenna of the REM pod to let us know that you are here with us today? We also have a EMF reader here, Henry, or Hank. The woman scares me.
It went off.
The woman scares me.
And it says the woman scares me, so he's threatened by Arlene.
Yeah.
Henry, you don't have any reason to be scared of her.
Can you set off that REM pod one more time?
She's also here just to let us investigate your story. What color?
Green.
Was it?
Yeah.
I heard it off, I just didn't see
Can you
what color
touch
it was.
the REM pod one more time? And I'll leave the room.
Do you want her to leave? Could you set it off twice? All you have to do once again is just physically touch it. Henry or Hank, if you're in here once again, could you please set off this REM pod for us? It will not harm you. It is just letting us know that you are here present with us. So we'll continue asking you some questions. It's just a 2 plus add. Because we're on the second. Oh.
Really?
Twice.
Twice.
3 times.
Pointing the camera away, like go off.
Mm-hmm. Then it went on.
Yeah.
Like it flashed. You have no reason to be scared. The woman is here. Will it make you feel better if she stepped outside of your room? Crash.
Crash.
Hope not, because we're driving. Put your energy inside this device. Let us know that you are here.
Scott Chili's.
Good evening.
The house.
The house.
The house.
Should we go to that hallway where the shadow people are, or what?
Yeah.
Let's hit the hallway down here real quick because that's the captain's corner where all the blood and all that's at.
Oh, the walls.
This captain. We're here by the, and this going off. Captain, are you here by me? Could you set this off? Shows that you're in this direction.
Archfiend.
Archfiend? Captain, is that you? I'm wondering if that's the patient with all the blood.
Yeah.
If that is correct, could you set that REM pod off?
Goes off.
It's almost like a yes, like a confirmation. Could you make it go up to red?
Hazel.
Hazel? Like the colored eyes, maybe? Once again, mean no harm to you whatsoever. We love the coloring books and coloring utensils you have around your room.
Here.
Here. Crazy part is, she was what, middle-aged woman, he said? Something like that. Can't remember how old she said. He said she was, but she was like a middle-aged.
She was a middle-aged patient, mentally probably closer to about 8 or 9.
She just had the mentality of a child. That's crazy, like, if it was left alone, she literally slept practically on the floor.
Jeez.
What happened?
What does that say right there?
Hola?
To Susie from Danielle.
Glowing wishes.
No one's.
To Susie from Kylie.
Susie, if you want us to leave, could you set off that REM pod that's on the bed? Just go towards the antenna. It won't harm you, but it'll light up colors.
Abandon.
This is like literally the place that we were all talking about. That we like feel. It just feels mad colder. Upstairs, it just like it's normal cold, but when you get like to this long hallway where you supposedly see the shadow man. So we're gonna switch it to night vision. Why is there just a random chair there? Alright, set the REM pod there. Random chair there.
What's that shadow behind you?
Tears of blood.
Tears of blood.
We went through the hallway of blood. Yeah. The tears of blood. That's trippy. If there's any spirits over there next to the REM pod, could you set that REM pod off for us, please? Leave that there for now and then go see Rebecca's room, because that's the last one that we have to do.
Yeah.
But again, we have like by 3, right?
Yeah, basically when the overnighters or people.
Hi, everyone.
Hi.
As
How are
soon-
you?
As soon as we enter the room.
Literally, we enter the room and it says hi. And look what's on the window.
What? Hi.
Jesus.
What?
How are you?
What is her makeup?
Rebecca. If that's your name, I believe. How are you today, Rebecca?
She's a woman.
What does that doll look like? The Annabelle
The
doll.
Annabelle, yeah.
Graveyards hide secrets.
Is a graveyard basically a cemetery or?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
This is the room that supposedly she doesn't like men.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
She
because
said hi.
she did and said hi everyone.
I forgot we set the fucking REM pod over
We
there.
confused her with our hair. She's not used to being like with men, like having longer hair. Yeah.
If you guys do want us to come back here, like we'll do like the Estes method. Unfortunately, we don't have like that much time to do all these methods that we usually do. You know.
Mm-hmm. Because we're on a time crunch. Surprised it's not getting temperature change for cold, because it would light up blue literally about the height of here.
You remind me of someone.
You know, it's on the right hand side.
Yeah, like it literally feels.
It says you remind me of someone. Who do we remind you of?
Or this place like will be like mad, like creepier at night.
Yeah, that's just what it says. Like it turns non-believers into believers, and this specific hallway is probably the number one reason why.